Please. I encourage, I know that you have some more questions to Professor.
I do, yeah.
Please,
many
please,
questions, actually.
Maybe Michiru, you can sit in the, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you have a microphone.
Okay.
Now it's time to ask those 75 questions.
That I just sent before, right?
75, please.
No, so thank you for your presentation. Thank you both, actually. It was very interesting, and you both touched on the topic of AI. For us, of course, in print or in the news and journalistic field, AI is very much seen as a threat. So maybe just to start, I would like to hear from your side what your perspective is on where AI could also interfere or even positively have to do with journalism, for example.
I guess we live in a, well, very different world. So in Latvia, we actually have, I don't know about journalism, but or media, not only mass media, not only dedicated to kind of journalism images, but they fulfill it with different kind of illustrations, so-called illustrations. For example, there's a publication about what's happened in a prison or what's happened in somewhere else, like in Switzerland, for example, and they're taking illustration, they're generating kind of illustration of Mid-Journey painter, famous painter, but it was not about Switzerland, it was about Portugal, famous Portuguese painter generating and making us illustration. So it's kind of very strange when you not taking from archive, which is absolutely open. We can find these famous paintings in museum archives, and they are open, freely useful for, could be used for illustration. So they're just generating and making captions Mid-Journey and well, Tevenet or Air Baltic, this kind of, no, not Air Baltic, but Baltic Times or something like that. It was the media, and you're looking at it and it's kind of, wow, it's what is it? Why it's happening? So, and I'm not afraid of artificial intelligence, and I think it's, well, it will be used. It doesn't depend on our worries or fears or something like that. It will be used, it should be regulated somehow. And we need some kind of, some ethical procedures to how it could be used. And it's, I think there is still some kind of gray gap in reality. We still don't know how to do it with it. And there's so many opportunities to use it for propaganda, for disinformation and misinformation purposes, so it's a problem. But I guess that it will be not able to regulate it by kind of ethical or journalism ethical procedures, because it's used by, for example, by Russian media, and we can't kind of influence or influencers who use artificial intelligence for political communication, supporting some kind of political parties. So we can't influence it actually, and these influencers sometimes located not in the European Union, they're located somewhere else. So there's some gaps in law and a lot of opportunities to do somehow in a wrong way.
I have a question to Dario from audience. Also falls into panel discussion. Is there an argument for printed media having a larger environmental impact than digital? Is that an argument?
Well, that's a especially interesting argument now that we are talking about AI, of course, because now suddenly image generation is also having a large impact on the ecosystem, and that's of course also affecting, you know, climate change the way that, yes, you could say print media does as well. I think a food for thought that is important to have is how frequent a print publication has to appear, for example. I don't think that a newspaper needs to come out daily, personally. I think a weekly or monthly model is much better, not just for the environment, but it's also a question of how much time as you know, a producer of such a title you can put into it. As I said, I work for NZZ, which has a daily and a weekly paper. And from my personal experience, the weekly paper does allow you to go deeper with your research, to maybe, you know, hire a photographer and send him off to photograph a story, where for the daily, it's sometimes very tough to do that just because you don't have the time and the story needs to go out. So there's a couple of things, of course, to consider, and the climate is definitely one of them, but I don't think that print has to die for the climate. I think there's a healthy kind of in-between.
I can add, I think that the printed media also adds huge value for people education, to be informed and to make a pressure on politicians and to make right decisions, and that is very, very huge impact and very necessary. Another question is, will modern technologies we use post-production, including AI, to get the result to our liking, so that our raw images are way different from the final images? Is still photography, or to what extent is it still photography rather than a visual representation of something we want to convey?
I think I would hand the microphone to you, I think.
Yeah, so question is, if photography can, so it's the, I think I don't deny the AI imagery, and first of all, I like the experience with the printed paper, especially fashion magazine. It's time consuming to look at them page by page. As I'm in Paris, there's a weekly fashion magazine, not the monthly like Japan. And it's nice time to have a cup of tea. We enjoy the time of looking at images, not consuming the information or images. I enjoy the time itself. Like you say, it's like item of living. And also, what I like about the AI is that we know the strong picture of happiness, or for example, the war or black and white picture of my image, like Robert Capa, is the strongest image in my mind of the news photography, the origin of photography. And AI can pick up those code or visual language in instantly if you need to publish the article, and as long as you say this is the AI generated, I think it's possible to tell the important story in a second, and you use the codes or, you know, from our memories. So I don't deny that. I enjoy both really.
Can I add a little bit? Well, it's just a small example. I was invited to photograph Pārdaugava place. It's a place located, city suburbs located in Riga on the other side of river. So, and I went there and I used part of images was cats. Well, there is some kind of street photography and something like, it's more like documentary, but I used this, professional flash to photograph cats, so I tried to enlighten them, and it was really like commercial cat photography, in a street style, of course. And they invited a person who writing about what I did. So, it should be some person who are understanding images. So, and she was poet, and later when I started to explain her this process of photographing, why these cats looks like that, not like ordinary, why all these post-production processes. So she, well, okay, I didn't know it. I can see. I thought it's kind of sunbeam on these cats, and every time when I start to talk, whatever, with students, with normal people who are not photographers, they don't see these post-production layers on image. They don't see color corrections, all these desaturated a little bit colors look artistic, and all these corners a little bit vignetting to make them darker, to kind of keep focus, and a lot of a lot of things which for photographers kind of natural to see it. Or when we open WordPress photo page with portraits and they look very brown. But they are not in reality. If you take with phone that kind of, in these same obstacles photography, it looks absolutely different. and when we will measure color temperatures there, it will be absolutely kind of absolutely opposite something what we see in a print or in on a screen. So I think the solution for any new thing in the world is education. So the people should have some opportunity to learn, whatever is it, just formal education or informal education, but it should be something we included, the information about photography, which actually in Latvia it's lacks actually. We have some media literacy in our school programs, but they don't explain what's going on in the visual world, and so it's a problem. I think artificial intelligence is not a big deal. So it's just a new approach to generating images. So we have some opportunity to understand them, how they work, why we react the same like on a photography emotionally, why it triggers us, and everything will be okay. But we need something in education to explain it and to give some, let's say, weapons for young generation, and not only young generation. Sorry, for everyone.
Yeah, but it's nice words you're saying, Professor, but in your speech you painted the picture pretty dark. And I have a question for you. You said that we need to regulate legislation or implement some kind of thing that legislator, whatever country it is well educated to be able to do that?
Sorry?
Will legislator who will establish the guidelines and who will establish some, I mean, on which level? I mean, you know very well in Latvia, legislator is struggling to put a simple balance sheet together.
I think we need some, we can't regulate kind of somewhere from outside, just the industry, and there are different industries involved who use artificial intelligence for different purposes. For example, cinema, not only photography actually. Photography is a kind of small part of it, but there is a cinema, there is a lot of things which related to text generation, and there's many professional organizations which somehow responsible, same like journalist ethics is related to partly to should be somehow self-regulated by professional institutions. So, and of course we have some laws which we can generate, and but it's other thing. I think that these professional institutions should be kind of in a front to organizing their own business, their own kind of ethical approaches to using text, to using images, to creating them, who is responsible, what we can do and what we can't do in advertisement, for example. It just only seems that it's kind of absolutely free place, but there's a lot of small things what you can remove and what you can't. We with one photographer just before the conference, we started talk about so what we can do and what we can't do in advertisement photography or just in real estate photography. What should be removed, could be removed, what could be generated there to sell real estate, for example. And there are so many institutions which are involved, so I guess it's a responsibility on these institutions.
Dario.
I have a follow-up question on that, because which I would also like to hear your opinion on. Because I personally, you mentioned the CAI, the Content Authenticity Initiative, which basically tries to put a watermark onto real images. I'm saying real images as to photographs to kind of distinguish them from AI-generated images. I personally don't believe that will ever be used on a level where we can fully depend on any sort of like authentication in that form for imagery. So maybe you as a photographer as well, I would like to hear your thought if this technology, you know, was invented and it probably meant you had to buy a new camera, it probably meant you had to use different software to process the images. Would you join such an initiative from just, or would it be too much?
Initiative of using AI to distinguish, yes, complete. Well, as a photographer, I would like to distinguish, to keep the, as a artist, we have copyright stuff, and if I do join the project that combined with the another technology, then I would make the agreement clearly, and then I join, and then. So I don't deny the new type of artistic expression at all. Yeah.
Yes, Turs, you have more questions for us?
Not me, no. Now we have some small thank you from our sponsors, Baltija and Liepājas municipality. Thank you all. Great speeches and great talking to you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I always feel smarter when I'm around those people. It's really cool.